Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week we're looking at plane storage in the shed. See you in a minute. Now, a couple of weeks ago I did the storage for the chisels over on the door. Pretty much the last but one probably thing to do storage for on the benches is the planes that I'd got out, and I'm just been and dug out everything I've got. They're on the bench. Let's go and have a look and see what we've got. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago I did the chisels, and that was going to leave me with planes that were in one of the boxes underneath the bench here, and most of the time pretty much inaccessible. And it's fair to say I didn't quite know what I'd got, and it's become very much apparent that I didn't know what I've got when I get them out. I said at the time that I'd got a number 5.5 or a 5 to tidy up, because I'd got an old cheap, I bought a cheap one in the sale when Home Base went bust. I think it cost me 20-25 quid, something like that. It's immediately apparent when you look at them with a rule flat against the base that is a little bit like a banana. You can see daylight through it in the middle, so it would need the sole flattening. What I was going to do was to either dispose of that one or do some work on it, flatten the sole, and use the other number 5 as well and get that repaired and tidied up. When I go and have a look in the tote underneath the bench, I've actually got another one. So I've got 2 Stanley number 5s that are old ones, and that one. I'm sure I don't need 3. I might need 2, but I don't need 3. So that one is definitely off to mending sheds. So again, that's part of this tool culling exercise. What I find I've also got is the little number 3 that I did up the other week and made the handles for. That's still a nice one. I've got a tiny little Bailey Stanley that needs doing up. That's like a little hand one. And I've got another little hand one there that needs cleaning and tidying. I've got 2 number 4s, which will need to tidy up. That one was my dad's, so that one is going to obviously be kept and looked after. I'm not sure about the other one. Surprisingly, I didn't even realise God knows where I've got them from. I've got 2 4.5s. It's a much heavier plane, much more substantial than the 4, wider blade, totally heavy. One says record, one says Stanley. Yes, sorry, that's a Stanley, that's a record. So I think it looks like I've got 2 3s, sorry, a 3, 2 4s, 2 4.5s, 2 5s. I don't think I need any more than that, other than I've always had a hankering for a number 7, which is the really big long one. And whether I'll ever really need or get one, I don't know, but I think in any storage capacity I will leave capacity for a number 7. I've just looked it up on the internet, and the blade width is exactly the same as the 4.5. It's a wider sole than the other planes, those 2. So if I make allowance for that, we can do that. Originally, the storage I was going to do, I assumed that you'd have to store these things like that, or flat, because they're heavy and you don't want them falling over. And that in itself is a problem, because there's quite a bit of depth involved. But when I started to have a look on the internet and YouTube at how people store them, a lot of people are storing them vertically, which I'd never even thought about, because I wouldn't have thought it was a thing you could do. But essentially, as long as you retain the top with a lip of some description on a bit of wood, they'll sit there all day long. All you've got to do is make sure that lip is deep enough so that you can lift the thing up to unhook the bottom. And as long as there are a pair of side rails to constrain it side to side, that seems as good a way of doing it as anything to me. So I'm going to go down that route. It'll go on that far wall over there, and then you'll be able to just pick one up and take it out, put it back in, and it'll hopefully stay in place with the right bit of rebate on the top. I've got some of this tulip wood I've used on other jobs. I'm going to, I think, try and rip down the back off one of these tongue and groove sections or grooved sections so that I've got a deeper lip, and I think that might do it. If not, I'll just have to trim it out deeper. But the principle is there, it works. I've seen it work with folks on YouTube doing it. Just need to get a flat panel measured to go on that wall. But that's the way we're going. I've just got to go and get myself some, needless to say, plywood to get the panel made, and then dig out something to do the side runners. Now I've got a space on the wall that is about 700 wide by something like 600 high. When I look at these pair of planes that I want to put one above the other, with a little bit of work on brackets and things, it's going to be nearly 700 high. Now I can get that, I think, yeah, if I move the clock up I can get away with that. So that's a starting point. I need a piece of timber 700 high, tall. Width to some extent will depend upon my divider material, and I've got to establish what that is first. But I don't need that much width. I need to have the space for the mythical number 7, and so that will give me something like that. That is going to be about 400 wide overall. So that's the first step. Cut a piece of ply and get myself some divider, or get some divider material first, because that will set the outer limits and the dividing spaces, and I can get it cut exactly to the right size then. Just using some of this ply lid tops for this. Doesn't have to be anything special, but this is quite a nice piece. I know that the veneer is incredibly thin, it's literally paper thin on the outer skins, but as long as we don't sand it too much, I'll just give it a coat of clear varnish once it's done. Keep the any marks off it too much, but once again it's not got to be that pretty, it's there to fulfill a function rather than to be decorative. Right, that's got the board cut to the right size, it fits in fairly well. It runs basically from the top of the window into the corner down to the deck level there, and I'll just now fix these over towards the back end, which is where I think I'll keep the planes, because they're not going to be used that often. I think I said it would be about 400 overall. That'll bring it out to about there, the plain part, and then the rest of this can be used for other tools such as the flush trim saw, things like that, that just are needed to hand. At the moment they're sitting on the shelf over the other side, but they're a bit awkward to get at. It's nice just to have them there. Right, that's that finished. There are a couple of lessons to be learnt from that. Firstly, not all planes are the same. I've had to ease that bottom tote out for that number 4.5 because it's not the same size as that one, so never assume anything. But we've got it to fit anyway, not a problem. There's a space there for a jointer at the end should I ever get round to getting one. And then I've got all this space left now to think about things like perhaps drill storage, things like the Japanese pull saws, that sort of thing, perhaps just to get the remaining stuff off the bench. But that is another major milestone. Of course, they all now need a damn good clean and polish and sharpen. Bit like the chisels, but at least now I can bite them off one at a time and hopefully get them all up to the state that that one is in, that I did the other day. So I hope that was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be doing something different, I hope, and I'll see you then. Bye.